Wedding Pro. Thanks for joining me. Today, we're talking about the average wedding budget. If you've started down the planning process, you've probably seen all kinds of numbers related to the average wedding budget. There's some things you need to know about those averages. Let's talk about vacations for a second. If you're planning a vacation to Europe, the Caribbean, Florida, or Tennessee, all those vacations are going to vary in price depending on the location, the length of stay, and the type of accommodations you plan to stay in. Same goes for weddings. Depending on your location, the amount of guests, and the style of wedding that you plan to have will all be determining factors in the amount of money you need in order to plan your wedding. When it comes to the average wedding budget, there's a discrepancy between the budget and the expectation. Why is this an issue? Because newly engaged couples are basing their expected wedding costs off of average numbers, but visually creating mood boards off of unrealistic expectations that they see visually. Why is this happening? It's called target marketing. In marketing, what you put out is what you attract. If you put out high-end weddings, you're going to attract brides with high-end budgets. If you put out average weddings, you're going to attract brides with average budgets. The wedding industry is a multi-billion-dollar industry for a reason. Target marketing is not new and it's not going anywhere. It is used in every industry that has sales. Car sales, home sales, vacation sales, all of them. Even as a kid, you probably didn't realize that you were being targeted. Did you ever go to a grocery store and walk down an aisle of endless cereal box options? The one you gravitated to was the one that had the prize inside the box that you wanted the most. Whether you liked that cereal or not, that's the one you wanted. That's target marketing. There's a lot of pieces and parts that go into planning a wedding. If you are a newly engaged couple embarking down the planning process for the first time and you have no understanding of how the wedding industry works, you're in for some shocking surprises. Because weddings are so emotional and it's a one-time event, brides get caught up in the visual effects of the perfect wedding day. Here's where the trouble comes in. When brides are seeing these average numbers, there's no visual photos to accompany those numbers. So they're just getting dollar amounts without any background information whatsoever on what that cost covers or looks like in real life. So they are taking these numbers and they are applying them to the visuals that they are seeing on the internet. And there is plenty to be seen. They are following local vendors. They are following national vendors. They are reading magazines. They are hearing all sorts of advice all over about all sorts of things. And at this point, all they can do is associate this photo with this dollar amount. And they know nothing other than that. For example, let's assume it's a floral quote. And the bride sees a $2,000 budget for florals. But we have no information on what that $2,000 was covering. We just know it's florals. So in the bride's world, she sees these beautiful photos with ceiling installations of greenery, a floral backdrop at her wedding ceremony, all these tables filled with these luxurious, beautiful floral centerpieces. And she takes that photo and thinks, $2,000 because I'm seeing photo after photo after photo after photo from all these different sites. And so when you see the same similar photos over and over and over again, you're associating that with, that must be popular, that must be what everyone's doing, and that must be what this $2,000 budget is getting me. So she sends that off and back comes this $18,000 quote. The bride doesn't understand why this vendor is so expensive. It's not overpriced based on the vendor. It's overpriced based on your expectation of this budget. So then they go off and they get a quote from another vendor based on the same photos and they start getting similar quotes back. At this point, they've realized that they've underestimated the amount of money that it takes to get florals, but their expectation is so far up here that they either have to now lower their expectation down to meet this unrealistic budget that they've created, or raise the budget to the unrealistic expectation that they created based off of all these photos that they've seen. So it's lowering this or raising this, or somewhere in the middle is where it needs to come. But here's where the trouble comes in. The bride has her heart set on this, her budget's down here, and we've already started the process. So at this point, we now need to go back to the drawing board, because if we're not going to come down to the budget level, which at this budget at $2,000, we don't know. But my guess is that it probably was only accounting for some bridesmaids bouquets and a bridal bouquet. Probably no flowers for the tables, definitely no ceiling installation, definitely not a backdrop for your ceremony. So we're getting the bare minimum at $2,000, but we're expecting the world over here on that budget. So again, what I'm saying is these things are not aligning, and this is where people are losing their control of their budgets, because very quickly they realize that not just florals is that way, but every category is that way. Every category. So now this $30,000 average budget that you thought you were going to have is more like $60,000, because everything in that budget needs to be doubled to align with all the expectations that you visually created for yourself. So why is this happening, and why isn't it stopping? Like I said, there's a target market that wedding vendors are seeking, and they are meticulously and thoughtfully posting photos from only the creme de la creme of the events that they are doing. They only want you to see the pretty photos, the best of the best, the ones that spent over the average budgets by far, the ones that are giving them all this marketing material. Those are the photos that they're posting on social media. They are not posting the average weddings. And there's a reason for this. Once again, in marketing, you get back and attract what you put out. So if you are putting out photos of average weddings, those are the brides that are coming back to you. No offense to anyone on an average budget. That's just what wedding vendors are after. That's what all businesses are after. They'll still take those weddings. They're just not going to market and advertise those weddings that they do. Creating the visual appeals to brides sets them into an emotional state that creates this sense of desire to want to have weddings like that. And whether they have the budget or not, more times than not, those brides are risking credit card debt, home equity lines, all sorts of risky debt options in order to get these visually appealing weddings that they're seeing advertised. It's not the vendor's faults. They're doing what they should be doing. They are producing advertising and marketing campaigns, and their brides that are spending the money are creating the content and material in order for them to do that. You, as a consumer, as a bride, need to understand that these are marketing techniques. You need to understand that when you are going into this planning process, that you either have a budget and you're sticking to it and you are adjusting your expectations to fit that, or you are taking these risks and you are overextending yourself to get these visuals that you feel you need to have. What's the solution? Well, it's not going to change on the vendor's world. They are going to continue to advertise, to put these marketing campaigns out there showing you creme de la creme. So what can we do about it? It is for you to be educated as a consumer to understand the marketing techniques that are being used by the vendors who are self-promoting and trying to attract a particular bride and target their dream client. You, as a consumer, need to understand that it is up to you whether or not you have to have a particular style of wedding, or you want to keep in line with the budget that you've created for yourself. But the one thing that you cannot say when you request a quote for high expectation from a vendor and you have an average budget that you've created, you cannot say that the vendor is overpriced. The vendor priced accordingly based on the information and expectation that was provided. It is your budget that is underwhelming compared to the expectation that has been set. So how can you avoid having this misalignment with your budget? Reach out to all the different types of vendors that there are that you're planning to have at your wedding and request quotes prior to committing to anything, because at that point, you then have a good picture of what everything's going to cost per category, and you can then look at what you're working with and decide what is most important, what things can be cut, what things can be reduced, and how can you adjust things to get everything that you want. So once you start making commitments and you haven't done that process, you are locking yourself in to particular categories that you're not going to have the ability to make adjustments on. And then all the other categories are going to have to work around that. So again, all you can do at this point is reach out to all vendors, get pricing quotes, base that information on what you really have to have, put it into your budget, and that is how you should properly go about planning your wedding budget. Keep your emotions from getting caught up in all of the visuals, and remember what it is that's important to you and that you must have at your wedding, and work from that first, and everything else is secondary. I hope that you found this video more informed and aware of some of the tactics that are being used to pull at your emotions and in turn pull some more money out of your budget, off of your credit cards, out of your home equity line, out of your parents' pockets, and keep that budget in a line so that you're not getting yourself into a situation that you're going to regret down the road. Remember, our industry's goal is to sell you a dream. And when you dream something, you figure out a way to pay for the dream. Follow along with my videos, share it with others, educate everyone who's getting ready to plan a wedding so that they can be smarter and financially more set and start off their marriage on a good note. So follow along, and I'll see you in the next video.